Hi folks, this is Charlie Kane, and today I'm just going to go through my continuous assessment for sports and exercise nutrition module. Okay, so firstly, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to my athlete. He's a 30-year-old rugby player. His position is outside centre, which is one of the backs. He has a training age of 15 years. His current weight is 80 kilograms with a height of 182 centimetres. His body fat percentage is 9.7%, and this was calculated by Foresight skin fold measurements using the Derlin and Wormsley method. And he would be deemed to have low to very low body fat percentage for someone of his age. His lean body mass is 72.2 kilograms with a resting metabolic rate of 2095 kilocalories. This is calculated using the Cunningham's equation. And his strength and power numbers, as you can see there, are very good for someone in his position at his playing level. Okay, so just on to an introduction of the athlete's sport and his physical demands. So movements such as walking, jogging, running and sprinting make up the main energy system requirements, which are aerobic and anaerobic in nature. Agility is required for movements such as sidestepping, accelerations, decelerations, change of directions, etc. Strength and power is required for tackling, scrummaging and rucking and so on. Interestingly, the locomotive rate is lower than other field-based sports as outlined on the table on the right. This may be due to smaller pitch dimensions, large playing numbers and the game being played at close quarters with a lot of collision moments. These activities, however, are high intensity in nature despite their lower locomotive rate. The position-specific demands of our athlete is that they are required to cover more ground compared to the forwards in the team, although will be involved in much less contact moments than the forwards. Their high-speed running demand is much higher than the forwards, with over 7 meters per minute compared to 3 meters per minute of a forward. Interestingly though, he will need to cover more ground than the back three, but will have less high-speed running and acceleration moments than the back three, according to Cunningham and all in 2016. So on to the needs analysis for the athlete. Their position has high running demands, so we need to ensure glycogen stores and muscle are well fueled. We need to keep them in a net positive balance when it comes to protein synthesis to encourage muscle growth. They will need to stay fit and healthy, so an appropriate amount of vitamins and minerals must be prescribed. They need to stay fully hydrated to optimize performance. And you can see here the Irish Rugby Injury Surveillance reported 53% of match-related injuries actually resulted from the tackle, and this was taken in 2021-22. This would tell me that the athlete needs to be very robust to even compete in this sport, and they must have a reasonable level of body mass. So then what are our goals for the intervention? Firstly, the athlete would like to gain some body mass. They're currently 80 kilograms, and the table on the right demonstrates that although this is an acceptable weight for someone playing at his level, there is some scope to put on some weight in the form of muscle mass to close the gap from the values for an elite player, which should help him gain an advantage playing at club level. We will look at a carbohydrate periodization to help achieve the desired weight gain, while also fueling the body for game days and recovery. We will help the athlete gain a better understanding of timing, type and total protein intake to help reach their goal, and provide some education on what type of nutrition is required pre, during and after a game. Again, we will be focusing on the 3 T's. We will promote a healthy, balanced diet in general to hit micronutrient requirements, and we make drinking water at regular intervals throughout the week a habit for the athlete. So this is how we will implement the intervention. After calculating the athlete's energy expenditure, which is shown on the table in the slide, we had to come up with a plan to get them into a calorie surplus. So following Empey and colleagues' fuel for work required protocol, we designed a weekly carbohydrate periodization plan using a traffic light system. And the graphic on the slide shows this in detail. So green days were used to load up on carbohydrates and prepare the athlete for game days, while also honing in on recovery the following day. And we had 4 green days in total. Amber days were a moderate carbohydrate intake, and this was probably in the high end than your usual amber days. This was to promote weight gain, which is the primary goal for the athlete. And then there was 1 red day involved, and this was on a recovery day when the training load was low, and following 4 big carbohydrate intake days. This was included to ensure that we don't overshoot caloric intake on low intensity days and try to hold on to that low body fat percentage that the athlete has. His protein intake was kept constant throughout the week at 2.5 grams per kilogram per day. This works out at around 6 separate feeding times during the day of 33 grams. This is probably in the higher end of recommended protein intake, but again, we are encouraging body mass gain, so these values would be desirable. Particular attention was taken in educating the athlete on the timing and amount of protein required each feed, especially the importance of a feed first thing in the morning and last thing at night to limit the length of time in a fasted state. Their fat was kept at 1 gram per kilogram per day, as recommended by Bradley and colleagues in their study outlining rugby players' energy intake from a pre-season period in 2015. A total caloric surplus of 835 kcals was planned for a steady mass gain throughout the week. The athlete was encouraged to add lots of colour to their main meals to focus on hitting their vitamin and mineral requirements through a food first approach. So as well as applying a carbohydrate periodization protocol, we thought it was important to educate the athlete on how exactly they should be executing their game day nutrition. And of course, this can be a minefield, as there are lots of components between before, during and after game on game day. So we designed our infographic to give them a visualization of what is required. Pre-match meals were split into for 3 p.m. kickoff days, and carbohydrate intake was advised as per Posthumus and colleagues at 2.5 to 3.5 grams per kilogram, and this was split between breakfast and pre-match meals. This was also a top up from previous day carb loading period. Protein and fat intake pre-match was kept low with emphasis on loading up on carbs to saturate the muscle glycogen stores. And as per Nucio and colleagues' findings in 2017, drinking water throughout the day was added to the timeline to ensure proper hydration before, during and after the game. A pre-game cup of coffee was also included as a legal ergogenic aid. And at half time, we introduced sugary energy drinks to help replenish glycogen losses from the first half. The energy drink will act as a simple fast-acting carbohydrate fuel. As per Bradley and colleagues in 2017, we implemented an immediate carbohydrate-rich meal directly after the game to help repair muscle damage and start replenishing lost glycogen stores from the high-intensity game. This meal also included 30 grams of protein to bring the balance back to net positive. A protein and carbohydrate shake was then taken pre-bedtime to continue the recovery process. The protein can be in the form of casein for slow releasing protein, although whey is also an acceptable alternative. Okay, so to conclude, our primary goal was to try and increase the athlete's body mass steadily by introducing the carbohydrate periodization traffic light system and increasing their resistance training program. Focus was placed on higher food intake on the days leading up to a game and on recovery days following. Attention was given to keeping food intake lower on low intensity days to keep the body fat levels low and making weight gain steady and sustainable. We educated our athlete on the importance of game day nutrition and provided a visual step-by-step guide in the form of an infographic poster, which will be displayed on the changing room wall. Providing visual aids to follow guides helps the athlete understand the importance of nutrition more, and this education process is the most important takeaway for the athlete moving forward. So just on reflection, it would seem that carrying out this intervention mid-season would be very difficult, as the athlete would be expending a lot of energy and their main nutrition targets would be to fuel and recover for games week on week. So carrying out the intervention off season to gain mass may be easier, where there is more opportunity to increase resistance training load and less energy loss from pitch sessions and games. The calorie or the carbohydrate intake of 480 grams can be a lot for an 80 kg athlete, and expecting them to consume this in 4 consecutive days may be unrealistic. This is the equivalent of 19 potatoes a day, so it's a big target to hit. So we could play with maybe increasing the fat intake as his body fat levels are very low, although I'm conscious that the athlete is now in his 30s and body fat management will become more of a priority for him down the line. We didn't include neat caloric intake in his energy expenditure, as this is such a volatile measure, but perhaps a baseline neat could be added to the overall expenditure, just maybe for accuracy. And a full assessment of vitamins and mineral deficiencies from a qualified dietitian would help cover more bases for the athlete in their dietary intake requirements going forward. Okay, so please see aside from all the studies referred to in compiling this presentation and my project as a whole.